Francisco. Did you ever sort of feel like there was a thin line you had to tread between how political or didactic you wanted the film to be versus just concentrating on the relationship?
No. The movie is inspired by the Claire Denis film, Friday Night, and that's a movie about a couple that has a one-night stand. It's very strictly just the physical act of this one-night stand. Although we were just at dinner, and somebody explained that the movie actually begins with this huge political scope, of the city of Paris and a transit strike, and it becomes a very intimate portrait of just two physical bodies. Our movie kind of goes in reverse. It starts with this physical encounter between two people, and then eventually it spreads out into a discussion of the city. I figured if I was going to, make a film inspired by Friday Night, it would be about my generation in the morning after the naivete of trying to forge an emotional connection from a physical encounter. And so I originally wrote down just a very short log line about the movie like 5 years ago, which was a guy and a girl wake up from a one-night stand and spend the day together. Could be set in New York or Chicago. This literally was in my Microsoft Word document about the premise of the movie. But when I went to this breakup and I was in San Francisco and I decided to make the flick, I knew that my relationship to San Francisco was very important to the reason for making the film. And so I felt like the movie would only be worth making if the actual city, the actual setting, the actual place that it was happening, it was occurring, actually affected sort of the emotional state of the characters. And everything we did was filtered through that prism. The reason why the movie is colored the way it's colored is because it's set in San Francisco. The reason why those people are talking about housing rights is because the movie is set in San Francisco. And they're real San Franciscans talking about real initiatives that are of the city. So I think once I really committed to doing that, it was just like everything was wide open, It was like if we want to have people just walk around the city for 9 uninterrupted minutes, we're going to do it so long as it's literally of the city, So, yeah.
Did you allow a fair amount of freedom for improvisation, or?
No, like I said, we shot the movie in 15 days, and so we finished shooting November 16th. Nat Sanders, who was the editor of the film, he also was the editor of Hump Day after editing this movie. He met Lynn Shelton on the festival circuit, the three of us met, and he came here to edit Hump Day. He's really good, and so we shot the movie 15 days. He got the rough cut in another 15 days, and then the movie that you just saw was pretty much done a month later. So he did it really fast. When you deal with improvisation, it's like usually, you have like one take out of 2 hours of shooting that's really great, and then you have to go back and restructure the scene to sort of incorporate, this really great bit of improv. When you do that, you need a very long editing window, and we didn't have that luxury. So the movie is 90% like on book, it's like on script. Wyatt is a very loose performer. He's from an improv comedy background, so his sort of his natural tendency was to try and go off book. He would go through the scene as I'd written it, and then he would try and take it to another place. Tracy does not have that background, so she was a very linear sort of performer. And there's a tension between the way they would block out the scenes, the way they would perform them. When we were going through the takes, take 5, for Wyatt wasn't anything like take 1. Tracy was very much like a typewriter. The T is the same T every time you press the key. So it was interesting. There's only 2 scenes in the movie that are completely improv. One of them is when Wyatt does the Bill Cosby impression in the grocery store. I'd written it as Seinfeld. And Seinfeld has that joke about how the produce is sexy or whatever. So I had that, and I saw Wyatt do Bill Cosby off camera, and I was like, oh, that's great. Do Bill Cosby. And he completely ad-libbed the whole thing about the competition in Oakland and all that stuff. And then there's another scene later in the film that's improv where Wyatt is moving the bike, and he drops his ad-lib about Mae Jemison. Okay, I'll tell that story. So the house that's Tracy's boyfriend's house in the marina is a house that I got as a house sitting gig a week before we shot the film. And so I said, you know what, Wyatt, we're going to live in this house because it's really big and I don't have any money to put you in a hotel. So Wyatt and I were literally living in that house. And when I got there, I walked inside, I was like, man, this is perfect. We're going to shoot in this house. It'll be Joe's boyfriend's place. So Wyatt and I are living here, we're shooting there. The guy who owns the place has no idea that I'm supposed to be cat sitting, that's it.
It seemed to be predominantly unfurnished.
And he had just gone through a divorce, and his wife is an interior designer. So to get back at her, he decided he wasn't going to put anything on the walls. So we put it into the script. And we shot the movie in sequence, and so the last week of shooting, there's a scene where they come in and they're bringing their bikes in, Tracy leaves her bike by the fish tank, or Joe leaves her bike by the fish tank. And then later in the film, when they come back from the club, Wyatt goes in the bathroom, and when he comes out, Jo was standing up with her bike, and I felt like if Micah wasn't between her and the door, she would get her bike while he's in the bathroom, and she would just go. So before they went out to the club, we shot the Rick James scene, and I said to Wyatt, I was like, look, I need you to move the bike. I need it to be on the other side of the room. So later when you come back, she has to face you when you come out of the bathroom, and you're sort of between her and the door. So he's like, all right, I'll move the bike. So he gets up, he grabs the bike, and he goes, you know, totally ad-libbed, you know, you should get yourself a fixed gear bike. You'd be like Mae Jemison, first black woman to ride a fixed gear bike through the marina. And he goes, hell, you're probably the first black woman in the marina. Completely ad-libbed, not in the script. And Wyatt is not from San Francisco, but we were living in this house in the marina. He was walking around the neighborhood, really ingesting, you know, the sort of class differences between living in the marina and living in the Fillmore or living in the Tenderloin. And he just came up with this really brilliant ad-lib that sort of really ties all these different strata of the themes of the film together. And it's a nice bridge between the Rick James sort of really funny moment and the very serious discussion they have afterwards. So it's a really long-winded answer to your question. Those are the two ad-lib moments in the film. Everything else is pretty much on book.
What's next?
I have no idea, man. I've been on this movie for like the last 14 months. I've just been pounding, just like really humping this movie. As a Of course, the camera's hitting at it. I've been pushing this movie relentlessly for the last 14 months. And it's great. It's gotten me to a place now where I'm talking to people about making another film. But I've done nothing but try and push the work that I did 14 months ago. So I haven't really worked on anything else. But hopefully there'll be something, man.
Yeah, just keep working.
Okay. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Definitely.
Anything else?
More technical question.
Sure.
The handheld camera work that we were using as stabilizer, or just was it actually?
No. We actually used Panasonic HBX with a Red Rock Micro lens adapter and a set of Nikon SLR still lenses on the front of that adapter. So it's like a marriage of this new technology and the HD sort of footage and this old technology and the actual lenses, which our cinematographer James Laxley found in a pawn shop a few years ago. Like a really beat up set of lenses. You would not shoot still photography with them, but there's something about the lack of quality, you know, married to these really pristine HD images that gives you something, you know, again, that's not really what you would desire, but it's unique, so it works.
Yeah, it really worked.
Thanks, man. And we did a camera test months before we shot the film, and we couldn't afford to have an assistant for the camera test, so James was pulling his own focus. And I was so impressed with what he was doing that I forbade him from having an assistant during the shoot. So he's pulling his own focus the entire film, and it works. It's just like, you really feel like you're looking through the eyes of somebody who's intimately connected to what they're seeing. That's exactly what's happening in a lot of the scenes. I'm not directing him on where to pull focus. He's just like letting it drift, you know, wherever he feels like it. Big guy. He was nominated for an Independent Spirit Award, competing with Harris Sabitas of Milk and The Wrestler and Ballast and all these big movies. And here he is with this like $13,000 movie competing against those guys. So